I've been keeping tabs on Samson ever since it was announced, watching development updates and all of that shit. But more importantly, I was paying a lot of attention to who was behind the development of this game. Why? Well, the studio behind it, Liquid Swords, is founded by Christopher Sundberg, the founder of Avalanche Studios, who, if you don't know, developed the Just Cause series and the Mad Max video game. So, rightfully, this game carried some hype. What I was expecting when going into Samson was a heavy-hitting, old-school beat-em-up. Something in the vein of Sleeping Dogs, but with much better driving mechanics. After a few hours, turns out I was wrong. Not because the game isn't trying to be pretty much what I described, but because it struggles to actually be that. With that said, in the first 20 or so minutes, something did click. I understood what the gameplay loop was going for. You start each day with 6 action points, split across afternoon, evening and night. Jobs cost points, most early jobs cost 2, meaning, in practice, you're doing 3 jobs a day. But this idea falls short, because the game doesn't force you to make difficult decisions with these points. On paper, this structure should introduce tension. Think about Into the Dead, Our Darkest Days. If you've played that, you know the tension comes from having to make decisions with your action points and who does what task. But in Samson, at least so far, you don't really need to think about it. Just look for the 3 jobs that give you the most money and do them. Even when the game introduces higher cost jobs, like a 3-point job with better pay, the decision is still simple. Because why would I do 2 jobs that net me $1,200 when I can still just do 2 jobs and earn more money? It's honestly such a shame because the actual idea is solid. You play as Samson McRae, your typical Billy badass. He's a skilled getaway driver and heavy hitter. Well, that's what the game wants you to believe anyway. In practice, he fucking sucks at driving and is even worse at fighting. Anyway, after a job in St. Louis goes wrong, like every big score job does, he's sent straight to prison. His sister, Una, makes sure Samson isn't shanked, shivved and or stabbed in prison by making a deal with the bosses who managed the St. Louis job. But in return, Samson now has to make back the $100,000 he lost, and if he doesn't, his sister will die. I appreciate the simplicity of the story. Just like the game, you don't have to think. You try do job go bad, pay off money you lost. Simples. Samson is placed upon 2 very important pillars: driving and combat. Unfortunately for the game though, these 2 pillars are made out of wet cardboard. Driving has this strange, almost gliding quality to it. Turning the stick even a little bit pushes the car further than you expect it to. And somehow it manages to catch you off guard every single time, which makes making precise movements, like weaving through traffic, unnecessarily difficult. Not just that, but when you have to make an actual turn, especially one you have to slow down for, it feels like you're the captain of a ship. For some reason, the wheels seem to be welded in place, making something as simple as turning a corner also unnecessarily difficult. But what makes all of this even worse is that the driving is the most complete part of the gameplay. So I'm sure you can imagine how rough the rest of it is. For example, even the basics like moving your character has issues. I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but at least for me, there's a dead zone on my controller where if pushing it at the right angle, Samson is locked to a slow walk instead of a jog. And no, before you say it, it isn't just my controller, because my controller is new and no other game has this dead zone issue. What makes it worse is that the dead zone is almost exactly straight up on the stick, so moving forward becomes a challenge. But for me personally, my frustration peaks when you interact with the combat of the game. It's such a shame because when it works, it is really satisfying. Samson feels like a powerhouse and the game does a good job giving his punches weight, and there's a good sense of aggression behind the combat. You even have a dodge and a parry option, so all the pieces are there. But again, just like most other things, it just barely works. With what the game is going for, I personally think there should be a lock-on system, because Samson misses way too many hits that should be landing. The parry also feels unreliable, and straight up, sometimes pressing the button to punch just does not work. I'm not saying it doesn't work like you don't have enough time to swing. I'm saying I've had moments where I've pressed the button 3 or 4 times and Samson just doesn't punch. This goes for all the other buttons in combat too. The inputs work maybe 70% of the time. Funnily enough though, the enemy AI is really smart. I mean, it's not, they get stuck on walls or don't notice you beating the shit out of their friends. But what I mean is that they are designed so shitty in the game that they don't have the coding to know that you need to give the player space to breathe. They will literally jump you. You know how in actually well-made games, you're usually attacked by only 1 or 2 enemies at a time, even if there's a group? Yeah, in this, 3 or 4 enemies will swing on you at a single time. So this can just stun lock you in the middle of them all and your health goes from full to 0 in a matter of seconds. Oh, and then on top of that, when you get knocked out, you lose all of the cash you were carrying. And trust me when I say that this game does everything in its power to fuck you over and make you lose all of your cash. But, changing my tone for a second, there are things to praise about this game, surprisingly. I have to admit, the world that the devs have built is really great. Not in the sense that it feels alive, because in that regard it's just as shit as the rest. NPCs clip through walls, spawn in from the sky, and dramatically fall over things that they haven't even touched. Anyway, the atmosphere of this city is great. It has this real grime and grunge to it that I can appreciate. You really do feel like you're in this underbelly, crime-soaked city, and the game leans into it pretty well. Trying to keep things positive, the voice acting is also sometimes pretty solid. Samson's voice actor, Ronan Summers, does a good job bringing a presence to him. He sounds right for the part as this hardened criminal. Also, Ashley Haddad, the voice actress for Una, also does a good job. She sounds perfectly tense for the situation she's in. You don't hear from her all the time, and it's always over the phone, but I never found myself wanting to skip what she was saying. I'm not saying everyone is on the level of these two. There are some outliers, some that are really bad, but that's to be expected. Honestly, that's about all I can positively say. Everything else just kinda sucks, and the game barely functions. Also, it's an Unreal Engine 5 game, so if you're in the gaming scene, you already know that this is a problem. But if you're not, Unreal Engine 5 games seem to have this massive issue with performance. It's really frustrating because I wanted this game to be good, and the trailers really cherry-picked some good parts so we wouldn't see how shit the game actually was. I will admit, after you figure out the combat, it does get better, but it's still not really enjoyable. Same goes for the driving. And honestly, all of the other cars out in the world are better than the car Samson actually owns. I've got some nitpicky bits as well. For starters, you can only rob a car if it's parked and has no driver. I'm sorry, but what sort of fucking crime game, especially one centered around driving, doesn't let you rob a car that's on the road? There's just so many little bugs as well. A lot of the time, when you have a beatdown mission, which is a mission where you have to stay in a zone and fight a certain amount of enemies, the enemies sometimes just fully don't spawn in, and it completely locks you out from completing the mission. When this happens, you could risk it, spend another action point and hope it works the second time, or just give up and try another one. Either way, you're getting fucked out of action points and cash. Samson's car also takes way too much damage from tiny little bumps, which again, is a stupid decision considering there's a lot of missions in this game where you have to ram vehicles off the road. Ramming a car sometimes does way more damage to you than to them, and with this shitty car control, accidentally rear-ending a civilian can sometimes take away half of your car's health. It takes so much money to fix the car as well, that I've been using civilian cars for the past couple hours because there's no way I'm using all my money to fix my car when I could be using it to pay off my debt. It just sucks, man. I was so committed to finishing Samson. I wanted to make a full series on the second channel and a full review once I completed it. However, that is now impossible for me to do. There's a mission a little later into the game where you have to find a guy selling guns. You knock on his door, talk to him, and then have to fight a shitload of guys. Anyway, I got knocked out because of the shitty combat system, so I failed the mission. I am so certain that the developers only coded this door to be used once, and didn't expect anyone to get knocked out during the fight, even though they made a dogshit combat system and threw 100 guys at you. Because now, when I try to interact with the door, it doesn't open. So I can't do the story now, and I absolutely refuse to restart the game and get back to where I was. So RIP to Samson, I guess. I was going to make lots of videos with you, but you are the worst game of 2026 so far, and I want nothing to do with you anymore. Right, well, that is my rant over. This is a very short video. It was always going to be short, but it got to the point where it just pissed me off so much that I just needed to rant about how bad it was and then stop. Like I said, I was going to make a series and I was going to make a full review once I completed the game, but it's so shit that I can't even finish it. Like I just said, it's locked me out of the fucking story because it's so badly made. But anyway, that's that. RIP Samson. I was excited for you, but you ruined it. But, let me know your thoughts on Samson. Maybe you liked it, maybe you love it. I can definitely see some people really enjoying it because it's one of those games that is so bad it's kind of good. But I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it. But, tell me what you think. But with that, I'm going to end this video, and I will see you all in whatever's next. Goodbye.